Hey guys, welcome back to my fourth and final installment in the rotator cuff series. And for the last time, the rotator cuff is the supraspinatus, the infraspinatus, the teres minor, and the subscapularis. Today we're going to focus on the subscapularis, and because this muscle is tucked in between the scapula and the rib cage, one of my favorite positions to approach this muscle is side lying. One quick note, in the side lying position, you might want to offer your client a pillow to hug, especially if your client is a female. This feels really secure and safe and is a nice way for your client to feel like they are not exposed. Because the subscapularis is so tucked away and so tricky to get to, once you're able to access this muscle, relieving it can have a dramatic effect on the release of a client's shoulder and possible nerve impingement and lack of range of motion issues arising from that. What I'm doing here is using my right hand to pull the client's arm away from their torso. So what that does is pulls the scapula away from the spine, allows me to access that anterior portion of the scapula. As you can see here, I'm using my thumb very strategically, not just jabbing into the armpit, but finding that anterior border of the scapula and making sure that I'm hitting that flat belly of that muscle that is tucked so deeply underneath the scapula. I want to take a moment here to emphasize the importance of working slowly when you're working deep into a vulnerable muscle. This muscle is incredibly sensitive, so as I'm using my right arm to move their arm around, it in turn moves the scapula and it allows the different directions of my pressure to very gently and very subtly change the way that I'm working and change the degree to which I'm hitting different fibers of the subscapularis. I find the side lying position effective when I'm trying to work this muscle passively. But if I want to engage this muscle a little differently and work it actively, I'm going to have my client in the supine position and have them lift their arm up towards the ceiling so that their shoulder is starting to pull away from their spine a little bit and lift up off the table. This way, I'm starting to feel that anterior portion of the scapula and the subscapularis consequently, and I can press right down into the table as they extend their arm back, bringing the surface of this muscle more into play and allowing me to work a little bit differently. I'm using the same technique here, only this time I've got the lateral border of the scapula in the palm of my right hand so that I'm using my thumb and supporting my thumb with my other hand into the pressure of the subscapularis. As you're working in here, instead of focusing on my big guns that are in the picture there, I want you to focus on what you're feeling. And remember that the armpit protects a lot of vessels, a lot of nerve vessels, a lot of blood vessels, and a lot of lymph vessels. So as you're pressing in there, be sensitive to anything that might feel non-muscular and be in communication with your client about breath, about letting go, and anything that has a different sensation other than a tense muscle starting to release. With my client still in the supine position, I love to walk over to the other side of the table and use this technique where I pull their arm and pull their body across the table. This is such a good technique to access so many different soft tissue issues, but it's really exceptional for the subscapularis. Using my left hand here to keep their shoulder extended away from their ear and their supraspinatus nice and long, I'm using my right hand and my right thumb to once again access that subscapularis. So I'm sinking in and using my right hand to push down away from me and my left hand to pull up towards me. This contradictory push and pull also releases the whole shoulder at the same time allowing me to access that muscle. Using that same push and pull concept with my palm as opposed to my thumb, I can really take all the work that I've just done into all the muscles of the rotator cuff and set it into play and open up that shoulder One last little pull here on the infraspinatus, and even a little work on the teres minor here and teres major, making sure that every element of that shoulder is nice and released and free. Thank you so much for watching this whole series on the rotator cuff. I will definitely include links in the description below for parts 1, 2, and 3. And if you like what you saw, please subscribe, please hit the like button, and feel free to share any tricks and techniques that you guys have for the rotator cuff. It's a tricky area and we could use all the help we could get.